Hi, I'm Ruskyle Howser of Tokyo Toastmasters Club and Musashi Kosugi Bilingual Toastmasters Club. And I've been a Toastmaster now for about 7 years. I first joined because I was teaching presentation in university and in companies, and I felt like I was pretty good at it. So I thought I could come in and maybe give a few speeches, impress some people, and maybe I'd be able to find some new clients to work with. Well, at my first meeting, I found out how wrong I was. I was a complete beginner. Now, I thought because I was a teacher, I would already know how to speak. And I had about 15,000 hours of teaching experience when I joined Toastmasters. But what I found was that speaking and teaching are very different things. And even though I had a lot of skills that I could use in my Toastmasters speaking, there were a lot of things I still had to learn. I found that I needed to learn a lot about how to stay calm, about how to use my voice and my body. I had to learn about how to structure a speech and how to make it clear so people could understand what my main point was. And as I joined first Tokyo Toastmasters and later Musashi Kosugi, I found that also with each one of those challenges that I not mastered, but that I improved at, I found that there were new challenges right behind it. The first challenge for me was just to get up there. I remember my first speech in Toastmasters. Well, actually, I don't remember my first speech in Toastmasters. I remember standing to the side, preparing to go up there, with my heart pounding in my chest. And I remember finding myself sitting back down at my seat with my notes crumpled up in a little ball in front of me and sweat dripping off my nose. But I really have no memory of giving my first speech. I was that nervous. But as I gave more speeches, I learned to calm down. I learned to take that nervousness, that fear, and push it down and focus on what I needed to do as a speaker. So that was the first challenge that I had to face. The second challenge was for me to speak clearly, to communicate clearly my message to my audience. And I had to learn how to structure a speech, how to take the information and break it down into small pieces that my audience could understand. My third challenge was learning how to control myself. My body, my voice, my expressions, because so much of our communication is not the words that we say, it's how we express ourselves, how our audience sees us. So if I'm trying to give a speech about how good it is to be someplace, but I say, "It's very good to see you, I'm very happy to be here," well, the audience is not going to get the message. So I had to learn how to use my body, my voice, my face, to give the same message that I was trying to give with my words. The fourth challenge is to go beyond the words and really get into the meaning of what you're saying. And this is where you really have to think about, what is my point? What am I trying to do with this presentation or speech? What kind of change do I want to make in my audience? And now we're dealing with the level of inspiration and motivation and persuasion and the real reasons that we speak. And the challenges there, I'm pretty sure, will never end for me, because every time I learn how to do something, it just opens up new areas that I don't know how to do. So that's what has kept Toastmasters so fascinating for me, even after this time I've been in. Is there's always a new challenge. There's always something new to improve, something new to learn, and it never ends. I find that being a Toastmaster has changed me dramatically in many ways. It's of course made me a better speaker. I'm much more able to stand up and explain my point of view in a crowd, even if I wasn't expecting to speak, because that's one of the things that we work on. I've learned to stay calm, to quickly structure my ideas, and to think on my feet as I'm speaking. And it's made me much better in all situations. It's certainly made me a better teacher. I used to teach just thinking about the information that I was trying to present. But I realize now that how I present it is as important as what I present. So I've learned to use my voice to be more dramatic, to focus my students' attention on the point that I want them to remember. I've learned to use body language to grab and keep their attention, both at the beginning of the class and throughout the class. I've learned a lot of the principles of how we can keep people's attention for a long period of time. Because no matter how interesting something is, if it just continues the same for more than about 5 or 10 minutes, people get bored. So I've learned how to change it up, whether I'm teaching or speaking. So in all these ways, while teaching has made me a better speaker, speaking has certainly made me a better teacher. It's made me a better thinker as well. Because when you have to explain something, that means you really have to understand it. It's so easy to say, oh yeah, I know about that, I understand that. But when you try to explain it, you really often find how many gaps or holes there are in your logic. How many things you really don't understand as well as you thought you did. So you have to think your way through the whole process, whether it's a presentation or a class. So in all those ways, the skills that I've learned in Toastmasters have made me a far more effective teacher, and a far more effective speaker, and a far more effective thinker. It's also made me a much better leader. Now recently, this is something that Toastmasters is really emphasizing. The new slogan for the rebranding is Toastmasters, where leaders are made. And at first, I didn't really understand that, because I think Toastmasters is a speaking group. But when I think back on my time in Toastmasters, and the 1.5 years I spent as president of Tokyo Toastmasters, I realize that it's true. That speaking is a big part of being a better leader. And also, being a member of a club, especially a leader of a club, is a tremendously educational experience. As president of the club, you don't have the authority that you might have in a business. In a business, you can tell people what to do. You can order them. You say, do it or you're fired. But that doesn't work in Toastmasters, and that's really not leadership when you do that. So as a Toastmaster, I had to learn how to get people to cooperate. Not only cooperate, but to actually buy in to the goals. So I had to clearly lay out what our goals were, what I expected from them, how they could help, and how we could all work together to achieve our goals. It was a tremendously good experience for me because it taught me how to not get people to do what I wanted, but to get people to want to do what I wanted. And if you can do that, if you can get people to want to help you, to want to cooperate, to want to work with you, that's a tremendous leadership skill. Toastmasters has also really helped me build my confidence. I'm a fairly big guy with a big voice, but I've never been a very confident person in dealing with others. And now, a lot of people look at me and they say, oh, you're a very successful and experienced speaker. You have a lot of confidence. Well, confidence isn't something you have. It's not something you're born with. Confidence is something you build. And you build it by challenging yourself. By taking on things that you don't know if you can do, by working hard to accomplish them, and then when you have some small success, every time you do that, you build a little confidence. So you challenge yourself a little more, and you build a little more confidence. Confidence comes from succeeding at challenging yourself. It doesn't always mean your speech or your presentation was a big success. But you learn something every time you do it. And that learning is the success. The more you do it, the more you learn, the better you get, and the more confidence you build. So confidence is not something you have, confidence is something you make. And the more you do it, the more you push yourself, the more you challenge yourself, the more confident you will become. I know it's worked for me, and I've seen it work for so many other people in Toastmasters. The first 5 or 6 speeches, especially, that people do, you just see tremendous improvement with each speech. They get better every time. And you not only see them building their skill, but you see them building their confidence. You see them standing up a little bit straighter, using a little bit stronger voice, putting their thoughts into stronger language each time. That's what really means to build confidence, to build skill, to become a better speaker, a better leader, and a better person, I think. Now, there are 2 kinds of people, of course, that we get into Toastmasters in Japan. There are native Japanese speakers, many of whom come at first to improve their English skill. Although, frankly, Toastmasters is really not a great way to improve your English skill. It's a great way to improve your speaking skill. And in doing that, you'll also get the opportunity to use your English and to improve your skill there. But we also have a lot of people like me who are not Japanese, and especially people who are native English speakers. I know when I first joined, I was a little bit concerned that I was volunteering to teach English for free. I thought I'd be coming in and coaching many of the Japanese members in their speeches and in their English. Well, that has not happened at all. I do sometimes coach people in their speaking, but not in their English. And what I found was that not only didn't I need to teach them English, but that I often learned the most from the people in our club who had the most struggle with English. It's hard. It's really hard to give a speech in your own language, let alone in a second language. And you end up using like 80% of your brain to process the language and only having about 20% left to really work on the other elements of speaking. But what I saw in my first few months in Toastmasters was that some of the people who had the most trouble sometimes with English had the most to teach me about being calm and composed, about challenging yourself and taking on a struggle, a challenge that you might not think you can do. But in doing that, you build your skill and your confidence. And I understand it much better than I used to because just a few days ago, I gave my first Japanese speech in Musashi Kosugi Bilingual Toastmasters. And I was terrified. I was sure it was going to be a complete disaster. And while my Japanese skill is not that strong, and my speech was not perfect, I did it. It went fairly well, and I got a lot of good feedback. So right there, I've already built my confidence to do my next Japanese speech. But ultimately, this is not about comparing yourself to other people. So it really doesn't matter if I'm in a club with people whose English skills are not that strong or whose speaking skills are not that strong. They're learning, they're improving, they'll get better. But really, I'm not competing with them. I'm not comparing myself with them. The only person I need to compare myself with is me. Am I better than I was last time? Am I better than I was last year? And I can promise you, just as this happened to me, if you do this, if you join Toastmasters and really push yourself to get better, to learn more, to challenge yourself, you will improve. You will get better. And ultimately, you need to decide how far you want to take this. Some people just want to improve their confidence or learn to speak a little bit better. Some people join Toastmasters for professional reasons because they're required to give presentations in their job. Some people really want to become professional speakers, or perhaps to challenge themselves to go for the World Championship of Public Speaking in Toastmasters. I know that's one of my goals, and it's a very high goal. I don't know that I'll ever make it. But challenging myself to get better, to write better, to deliver better speeches, to learn how to use my body and my brain and my gestures and my face to convey a clear, powerful, emotional, persuasive message. Well, these are the kinds of things that make you a better speaker in business, in your personal life, and in everything you do. So Toastmasters is not only a great hobby in a way, because I've met some incredible people in Toastmasters clubs. Many of my best friends now I met in Toastmasters. I really like the kinds of people that it attracts. People who are challenging themselves. People who are trying to improve, to get better at something. People who are never satisfied with what they've already got. They always want to get better. Be more, do more, learn more. Those are the kinds of people we have in Toastmasters, and those are the kinds of people that I like to be around. But it's also just incredibly fun. We have a lot of fun after the meetings, before, talking. No matter what you do, it doesn't really matter how good you are at your job or how smart you are if you can't get your ideas across to other people. Toastmasters is a place where you can learn to do that. You can learn to communicate effectively, to lead effectively, and to have a lot of fun doing it in the process. So whatever your interests, whatever your goals, give Toastmasters a try. I think you might find that it's not only fun, but it could be one of the most powerful, the most profound experiences of your life, as it has been for me.